The 12-team college football playoff is the best. We don't need to expand. We don't need to change anything. The 12-team format is the answer for 2024, 2025, 2026, and beyond. Here is why. The 12-team format specifically checks two boxes the college football playoff needs to check when it comes to having the perfect playoff. Box number 1, inclusivity. Box number 2, keeping the regular season important. No playoff format checks both boxes outside of a 12-team playoff. It is perfect. Let me explain. Number 1, inclusivity. We needed expansion. Expansion is making the sport better. Expansion is making the sport more interesting. Because now with 12 teams, we could go into any given year, and there could be 30 different teams and 30 different fan bases with actual belief, not hope, not delusion, actual belief they can make a 12-team college football playoff. And guess what? More hope, more schools, more fan bases having belief means more interest. It's not a coincidence that last year was the most watched college football season ever. Why? Because last year was the most open college football has been in arguably my lifetime, going on 30 years old. We got into November, and there was still, we could argue, 10 teams that were in the race for 4 spots. It's never been that wide open. But that wide openness allowed more teams and more fan bases to be involved, which means more people were watching and more people were interested because there was bigger games on. So now when you go to 12, there are going to be more fan bases interested, which means the overall interest of the sport is going to be higher, which is a good thing for all of college football. The 12-team format perfectly, I think, is the right number where it's inclusive, but it's not overblown. Because box number 2, the 12-team format also checks, is while it's inclusive and having more teams have a real chance to make the playoff, it also maintains the integrity of the regular season. It also ensures the fact that the regular season is not watered down. If anything, I would argue right now going into 2024, this playoff is going to make the regular season even more interesting. Because all of a sudden now, you have games and teams that are important no matter where you are. You could be at the top of the rankings. Every single game you play is still massively important. Middle of the rankings, 5 through 10. Your games are still very important. And the bottom, those 2-3 spots that are open at the end, those games are still important. Like, you look at how this is formatted. 12-team format. The top 4 teams, 1, 2, 3, 4, have a first-round bye. You can only get one of those 4 slots if you're a conference champion, which means it doesn't matter that Ohio State can run through the regular season at 12-0. Doesn't matter that Georgia can blow out every team by 40 points in the regular season and be 12-0. If they don't win their conference championship, they will not have a bye, which means they then have to play a first-round playoff game. They don't get to bypass, go to round 2. So even though Ohio State, let's just say 12-0, is a lock no matter what happens in the conference title game to make the playoff, same thing with Georgia, in this current iteration with the way it is, if they don't win their conference championship game, they can't get a bye, which makes the conference championship game matter and makes the end of the regular season, even with 2 or 3 weeks after we think, well, it's a guarantee Ohio State's in, and it's a guarantee Georgia's in, it still makes those games important because one loss could be the difference between a first-round bye and moving on to round 2 or having to play a first-round playoff game. That's going to keep those teams and those fan bases motivated and interested and playing important games down the stretch in November. So the 12-team format makes the top still competitive and makes the regular season matter for them. It makes it for the middle-tier teams important as well because if you're seeded 5 through 8 in the first round of the playoffs, you have a home game. seeds 5, 6, 7, and 8 host at home the first round of the playoffs. So now that matters because if you're not going to get a top 4 seed, if you're not going to get a bye, well, then now you're playing for a home game. And what makes college football so special, there's a few things, but one of them is atmosphere. Game day atmosphere. You're telling me there's not a difference between playing a game in Death Valley at night at LSU in a playoff game or playing it at your home building? Having the option to play at home or having to go on the road to play Penn State in a whiteout? Having to go play Oregon on the road? Having to go to Madison and play at Wisconsin? The home atmospheres for college football are unmatched. And so now if you're not going to get a bye, you still have every game matter because now you're chasing one of those, seeds 5, 6, 7, and 8 to get a home playoff game and to have, that first round of the playoffs in your advantage. So that makes that, kind of tier of the playoff important. And the back end, obviously, the last few spots, you're scraping by in order to get in. It's, every game matters just to be able to win and, impress the committee enough to be ranked inside the top 12 to get a playoff spot. So when you look at right now, this 12-team playoff format, I think it's perfect. We don't need to expand. We don't need any changes. It's actually insanely frustrating to hear, this discussion of 14, 16. We have no idea how 12 looks. Can we see how 12 looks first, please? Because on the surface, 12 looks perfect. It's not too big. It's still, formatted in a way where every single team, no matter where you are positioned in the playoff race, your entire regular season matters. It matters. And that's what we want, right? We want inclusivity, more teams making the playoff, which that's the case here. But we also want it to be, to be where the regular season is not watered down. You get the best of both worlds in a 12-team playoff. I don't know another format that would give you the best of both worlds. You'd either shrink it and make the regular season more important or expand it to improve inclusivity, but you would lose one of the two. The 12-team format, as currently we see it right now, is what's best for college football going forward. We don't need expansion. 12 is the answer. The only thing I would change, I think that needs to change with this current format, is we need more home playoff games. The fact that only the first round of the playoffs is on campuses and everything else from there goes to bowl sites is absurd. The fact that teams with a bye, let's just say in this case, because I think they are two of the best teams in the country, Georgia and Ohio State, if they are 1 and 2 and they have a bye, they don't get a home game the next round. They're at the Rose Bowl, the Peach Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl. Like they're at a neutral site bowl game. That's not right. We need every game outside of the national championship game to be at a home venues. Lean into what makes college football special. The environment is what makes college football special. Home playoff games at some of these stadiums are going to be the most electric atmospheres we've ever seen. No hyperbole. Most electric atmospheres we've ever seen. Lean into that. I get goosebumps on TV watching some of these home games and hearing the crowd and what it's like there. Dying I was there in person. Why wouldn't you want that for the biggest games of the year? It makes no sense to me why you would prefer a game at the Fiesta Bowl over a game at LSU. Make it make sense. Or Georgia, whatever. The shoe. That's my only gripe with this current 12-team format is that it's first round at campuses and everything else is neutral site bowl games after that. Hate that. Otherwise, though, 12 is perfect. We don't need to expand anymore. We don't need any adjustments. We don't need 14. We don't need 16. 12 is the answer. If you think you have a better playoff format, like if you think right now a 14, a 16, an 8-team playoff right now is better for college football than the 12-team we have right now, Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why you don't think the 12-team format is what's best for college football moving forward. 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227 at Ryan_Hickey. And the number 3 is where you can find me on Twitter if you want to tweet your thoughts instead of calling. Lee, though, is calling from Cincinnati. What's up, Lee?
Not much, Ryan. Thanks for taking my call. And I just got to say right now, you are so spot on. Preach on, because you're right. The 12-team playoff is the perfect number, especially with the dissolving of the Pac-10. There's only 4 power conferences now. And to take it even further, what I think would make it even better is the top 4 teams should be the conference champions of the Power 4 conferences that still exist. Because you're pretty much going to have those anyhow, but it'll make conference games, conference championships that much more important now. Have those as the top 4, and like you said, all the other teams are going to be the highest ranked teams past that, which is of course is what you want. But you're absolutely right. Also, instead of those top 4 not only just getting a bye, their first playoff games should be home games. Then after that, okay, after the first 2 rounds, I think you go ahead and start playing at neutral sites like the Fiesta Bowl or the Cotton Bowl or anything. But when it comes to the number there, the 12, you are absolutely correct. 16 would be too much, 14 would be too much, but I think that 8 wouldn't be enough, because you said the one 4-letter word that makes the biggest difference in college football, and that's hope. And that's what the 12-team playoff gives everybody, is hope.
Lee, I'm with you. Thank you for the call, buddy. That's also it too. I'll speak for myself, but I feel like I'm speaking for college football fans here when I say this. All we want is hope. Trust me, I'm a Penn State alum. I would die. I won't say kill, because maybe we'll see. It depends how long the drought is. But I would die for a Penn State national title. I want one so bad. But I'm not trying to create a format here that benefits Penn State or benefits one conference over another. All we want is hope. And part of that hope is getting to the dance. It was impossible to get to a 4-team playoff. The committee, you had no idea what the committee was thinking. They could never explain their rankings anyway. They'd go on the ESPN afterwards. They'd ask, why was Florida State 4 and Washington 5? They would give you no reason. They would explain it terribly. They couldn't back up what they did. So when it's only 4 teams, there's only 9 then true teams that have hope going into a season in a 4-team playoff of making it. Now in a 12-team format, you give more teams hope to make it. And once you make it, is Tulane going to beat Georgia? No. But hope that Tulane can make the college football playoff is good for college football. Let it be decided on the field. If my team is not good enough, okay, fine. We saw it on the field. Don't let a committee, though, tell me I'm not good enough without actually without having an opportunity to compete. That's the one thing that bothered me with college football. There's such this gatekeeping. There's holier than thou when it came to the college football playoff of how dare we let anyone that's not elite into the playoff. How dare we allow the 5th best team in a league that has 134 teams in it? How dare we allow the 5th best team to compete for a championship? Could you imagine living in that world? That's what the sentiment was for this whole 4-team playoff. It was stupid. Let it be decided on the field. If we get a blowout here and there, fine. I don't think we're going to get as many blowouts as people think. But it's also you're just giving opportunity. Since when is that a bad thing? Not the last time I checked. And now that's what a 12-team playoff does provide here. Hope and opportunity. I think that's what we as fans want. From there, let the chips fall as they may. But damn it, at least give me hope that I can make the playoff and then see where things do go from there.